Remember how the first snow used to fall, Wilson? It wasn't like the ocean spray you see. It was so unbelievably quiet, like the whole world decided to hold its breath just for the flakes. Imagine walking through it and everything smells sharp, like cold metal and clean earth. Heavens to Betsy, this blizzard hits harder than the tide ever did, making my beard feel like a dirty mop. Look at that poor duck, completely encased in fluff, poor thing. Goodness me, look at this little fluffball. Are you checking out my work, pal? You stare at me like you're calculating the distance to the next crumb. Last night's dream, Wilson. It was strange, like I was back on the pier before everything went sideways. I remember the air tasting thick, almost syrupy, and the smell of salt mixed with roasting nuts. There was a little music playing, a tinny, slightly out of tune, and I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt. We were walking down this boardwalk, and everything was bathed in this weird, golden twilight glow. Suddenly, the music cut out completely, leaving only the distant, rhythmic clang of a boy bell. I turned around, expecting to see someone, but there was just this curtain of mist rolling in, swallowing the whole harbor. You know how I spent most of the day reinforcing the northern palisade, adding those extra angled beams? Well, in the dream, I was showing it off to this crowd, and the mist just ate the edges of the whole magnificent structure until it was just standing there, isolated in the quiet. Then, the light snapped back, brighter than the midday sun, and the mist was gone, leaving just the steady, slow drip of water from a nearby awning. Rabbit's whiskers twitching like little antennae. Wilson, are you going to stare at me all day? Maybe you need a little fresh water to keep you company. Emerald moss clings to the damp rocks, Wilson, making the whole cove look like a giant, overgrown velvet cushion. I think I saw iridescent beetles crawling over the tide pools, shining like scattered jewels. Darn things, the fog rolls in thicker than molasses sometimes, doesn't it? You know, I was thinking about that first little fire I managed to coax to life. It felt like pure magic, Wilson. I remember gathering the driest driftwood, the kind that's been bleached silver by years of sun and salt, and arranging them just so. My hands were shaking something fierce, like I'd been running a marathon in my sleep. I blew on the tiny pile of tinder until I thought my lungs might burst, and then *whoosh*, a single hesitant spark caught hold. It wasn't a roaring bonfire, mind you, no grand pyre, just this tiny, defiant little lick of orange flame. I practically did a jig around it, yelling until my throat was raw, because it felt like I had wrestled the very darkness out of this whole miserable spot. I stood there, just watching the heat dance, and it smelled so sweet, like burnt sugar mixed with rain. Honestly, Wilson, that little flame was brighter than any city streetlight I ever took for granted. Blast this soggy earth, it fights back like a grumpy badger. You hear me? I swear this whole island is conspiring to keep me underground until I sprout roots myself. Remember the day I painted Wilson's face, Wilson? It was a scorcher, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer like a bad mirror over the sand. I'd been out collecting bits of driftwood, imagining some grand raft, when I spotted you near the tide line, just looking all vacant. I remember the sunlight hitting your curved body, making the painted wood look almost alive against the backdrop of turquoise waves. I'd been nursing this ache in my chest, thinking about the clocks and the schedules, how I was always moving toward some unseen arrival. So, I found the charcoal remnants I'd managed to scrape off some shipwreck beam, and using my thumb, I pressed my own blood right onto the smooth curve, right where your mouth should be. The sensation of my own warmth meeting the cold, wet wood was startling, a strange, crimson punctuation mark in the vast blue emptiness. You just sat there, that blank, perfect face, and I felt this huge, ridiculous surge of pride, like I'd just completed a masterpiece worthy of a gallery. I kept touching the painted outline with my fingertip, feeling the slight grit of the drying pigment, and for the first time since the wreck, I didn't feel like I was just waiting for something else. I felt like I was asterisk here asterisk. Dirt, you stubborn heap of clay, you think you can hold me like this? I'll carve my way out of your stubborn little pocket like I'm skipping a bad parcel label. Crimson stains on the bleached wood. Wilson, do you remember that awful squall we had about 3 seasons back? The sky had turned that unsettling shade of bruised plum, and the wind sounded less like air moving and more like 1,000 dry voices whispering secrets through the palm fronds. We were building that little sheltered nook, the one near the fresh spring runoff, and the rain just started coming down, not in drops, but in sheets, like an upside-down curtain made of wet linen. I remember wrestling with the last of those salvaged lengths of rope, feeling the salt spray grime flake off my knuckles as I knotted it tight enough to stop a runaway wagon. Just when I thought I couldn't grip the wet, slick stones anymore, a wave, not a normal swell, mind you, but a colossal, greenish-gray mussel came surging up over the outer reef. I thought we were done for, that the ocean was finally claiming us whole, but then, right at the apex of the crash, When I thought my bones would splinter into 100 useless pieces, I saw a flash of color, a bright, impossible orange, catching the submerged wreckage nearby. It was a single, perfect, unburnt piece of wood bobbing against the tide like a signal flare from a forgotten age, and it made me realize that even in the deepest black chaos, something bright always manages to float back to you. This damp soil acts like a gritty mouth, trying to swallow my boots whole. I'll dig this mess out like I'm extracting a stubborn customs manifest. By the barnacles, this grit is tougher than old iron. I'll punch through this muck like it's just badly sealed packing straw. Do you know what the weirdest thing is, Wilson? It's about this box, the one I've never dared touch, the last parcel. I keep turning it over in my hands, feeling the edges, imagining what the paper inside might smell like, maybe old ink and cinnamon, or maybe just the dry scent of disappointment. I think, sometimes, that it might contain a ticket, a real ticket, the kind that lets you board a proper train, one that whistles a song you haven't heard in years. And I picture the day I open it, the moment my fingers finally break that seal, and it's not a ticket at all, but a single, dried, perfect blue feather, like one you find on a high-flying seabird. That's why I can't open it yet, because if it's just a feather, it means the journey never actually stopped. It just paused. Hello there, you feathered sentinel. Are you assessing my structural integrity? Or do you just smell the faint scent of smoked fish? Blast this compacted earth. I'll heave myself free of this muck like a runaway cart shedding its useless cargo. Brushing sweat from my brow, this patch of ground feels like it's stitched to my very bones. I'm going to excavate my exit like I'm prying open a rusty safe. This packed dirt resists me like a sleeping mountain lion. I will carve a path out of this sod before the tide turns again.